What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, I have a juicy story time for you guys today.
I'm uncomfortable.
If you guys are new here, hi. You picked a weird day to show up. My name is Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery who served time in prison, and this channel is my crazy life story, prison, addiction, mental health. Sometimes we spill some tea. If you want to follow me on any other social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, that's $2. It's only ever gonna be $2. All of that is linked down below, as well as my vlog channel and my podcast that I need to record another episode for. I know.
I'm slacking.
I also have a limited edition Ride or Die Crew merch. Look how cute it is. People were worried that the bedazzled things would fall off if you put it in the washer. This is a collaboration between me and Mindy, who I have interviewed on the channel a couple of different times. I own like 25 of her designs like this. Never had an issue. I'm so lazy. I'm never gonna wash anything by hand. That is good quality. I've washed each and every one of my pieces from her 1,000 times over the past year, have not lost one rhinestone. That is why I decided to collaborate with her. All right, enough rambling. Y'all want the tea. Let's kick this thing off. Okay, so do you guys remember this video where I talked about the RN that like stole pills? Yeah. It's not her. So I worked at a nursing home, and that is where I met my ex-girlfriend. What are we gonna call her? We can call her Kay for the duration of this video. So during this time in my life, I had just gotten out of a very horrible relationship with Steve. I have shared a ton of videos on him. He is my narcissistic ex-husband who I met when I was 15 and he was 20. So I have a lot of videos on this channel kind of going over that relationship and how just awful it was, how manipulative it was, how narcissistic he was, and just how toxic that relationship was. And although that might not seem like it's a factor in this, it is. So I had gotten out of that relationship that was super controlling and just really, really horrible. I just gotten out of that relationship, and I remember the day that he left. I felt so free, and it was such a good day. I couldn't believe it. I still was kind of walking on eggshells thinking that he would come back, but I worked at this nursing home with Kay, and we hung out a lot before my relationship with Steve finally ended, and I regained a little bit of freedom. Kay and I had so much in common. We were both, unfortunately, drug addicts, so that's not like a positive thing, but we had a lot in common, and on our lunch break, almost every single day, we'd cruise around, and we'd hang out, and we'd smoke, and we'd sometimes use, and I just remember feeling so free with her. I felt free, and it was the only time in my life at the time that I felt free. Now remember, I had been working at the nursing home while I was in this relationship with Steve, so I was friends with Kay before we ended up getting into a relationship together. But essentially, her and I became really good friends, like really good friends. I told her all of my drama and all of the stuff with Steve. She would go above and beyond to like check on me and make sure I was okay, which is a really big deal when you're going through all of the things I was going through. Now, I never told Steve that I had a friend from work named Kay. I never told him about her, and I think it's because almost like instantly, I was just really drawn to her. I loved her energy. I loved that I felt so comfortable and free around her. So I never told Steve that I had this friend. And I think there's a few different components to that. The first being that Steve would want her phone number, and he would want to check on me, or try to catch me in lies. Like I would say like, oh, I'm going over to my friend's house. He would call to confirm, or he would try to figure out where she lived so that he could try to stalk me if I was like hanging out there or something. So I didn't want to involve her in that kind of situation, but I also kept her a secret from Steve because I started to recognize that I was having feelings for her. Now, all of my friends that are LGBTQ+ call this baby gay. Like you don't really know what's happening and you don't know like how you feel, but like you're starting to get feelings for someone and like you don't know what's happening. Well, that was what was going on. Like I'm like, I'm straight. I'm like really straight. I'm straight AF, like straight as an arrow. Pfft, bitch, whatever. What does that even mean? When you're attracted and drawn to someone's energy, who cares? Who cares, right? So Steve and I broke up. So a few days after my relationship with Steve finally ended and he left, I went into work, and the first thing that I usually did was look for her car to see if she was there, and I didn't see her car, so I'm like, dang. Well, then I was going into like the sign-in book. Nursing homes have like, you have to like sign off on certain things, and I saw her signature, so I'm like, okay, maybe she just like left for a second. Well, sure enough, she was on shift with me that day, and I told her that Steve had finally left, and like the energy in the room that I told her that I am now single and like Steve was gone and he moved out, like it was so good. But it was one of those things where it's like, oh, my friend is out of a toxic relationship, yay. Also, like the way that we would look at each other, like we were definitely attracted to each other. Anyway, moving on. So we went to lunch together like we always do, but we usually went to lunch at her house. So we went to her house and she kissed me, and it was a very exciting baby gay moment. So a few days after like our first kiss, I spent the night at Kay's house and we started seeing each other. And there were so many red flags along the way that like I didn't see, but I remember at that time thinking, I do not want to be around a man. I don't want to date a man. I don't want a man to touch me. I don't want anything to do with men. I was so done. At this moment, this couple of months that this had gone on, I remember thinking like, I hate men. I don't want a man to touch me. I hate men. Like, I'm done. Hating men, but also being attracted to men is one of the most confusing things ever. I don't hate men. At the time, I really hated men. I hadn't had any positive experiences with men. You know, even my cousins, like I hated how they talked about women, and like people in the drug world, I hated how they treated and talked to women. So like I really hated men at this moment in my life. That's something that I've had to learn and work through later, you know. Like, should men be allowed? Yeah, I didn't think so either. So that was a process for me to work through, but at this time I did not want to date a man, touch a man, be around men. I didn't like men at all. But I was also kind of like confused as to how I could be so into this girl when my entire life I had always been straight and only ever been attracted to men, and like it was kind of a confusing time. Anyway, I digress. So there were a lot of red flags, like 2 drug addicts in a relationship. I can't see how anything would have gone so wrong. We're obviously both toxic. We obviously both have issues. And I just kind of assumed that because we were seeing each other that we were exclusive. Like I wasn't seeing anyone else. And I don't think we ever had that conversation. So, you know, a couple months in, things were like really happy. I'm feeling like I'm in the honeymoon phase. However, red flag number 1 is Kay never introduced me to any of her friends or her circle. Red flag number 1, not introducing me to friends and family, but I'm not thinking anything of it because like I don't have any friends and like my family is not in my life at this moment. So I wasn't thinking anything of it. And honestly, like everything was happening so fast, and this was a new relationship. It was a new time in my life, and I just ignored that red flag is what I'm trying to say. During this relationship with Kay, I'm also a dealer, and she knows that, and she sometimes when I was with Steve would hook me up when she could. Now that Steve is gone, I am right back into it. I am dealing full time, and I ended up leaving my job at the nursing home that she still worked at, so I'm dealing full time, and she knows that, and it was a good feeling not having to hide that, you know? Like I'm being honest with the person that I am dating. I'm being honest with them. They know where I am. They know what I'm doing, and it felt good to be able to trust someone and tell them everything. Another red flag about this relationship with Kay is like I wouldn't stay at her house all the time. Like there were only like a few instances where like I could stay the night, and it was kind of rare. Like she would come over to my place and I wouldn't really go over to her place that often, but on our lunch break at work, I was there every day. But I couldn't stay the night. Bitch, red flag. Hello, it is raining motherfucking flags, okay? Like, and I'm just like, oh cute, look at all these red flags. We can make a bouquet with them. Bruh, okay, whatever. So one night I get a call to go to a house party to like drop off some dope, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I got you. This was probably 15 minutes from her house and 30 minutes from my house, right? Yeah, like 30 minutes from my house. Well, I drive up and it's a house party. So I pull into the driveway of this house and there's a lot of cars everywhere, not really thinking anything of it. I go to get out of the car to go inside to find the guy that called me to ask me for some stuff. and I see Kay's car and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Why didn't she tell me that she's at a party? Like I like to party too, bro. I like beer funnels. Like why wasn't I invited? Why didn't she tell me that she was here? So I walk in and I find the guy that I'm going to sell this to and I'm like, hey, have you seen Kay? Like her car's outside. And he's like, oh yeah, she's, I think she's in the back or she's on the back porch. So I do my deal and I sell it and I go and I look around and I'm not seeing her anywhere. So I'm like, this is super weird. Why is her car here? He said that she's here. I don't see her. So I finally spot her at this party in this like weird little like back room where it's not like a full room, but it's not like a sunroom. How do I explain this room? This weird little back room in like the back of this house. It's like kind of like a sunroom, but not really. I don't know. It was just a really tiny, weird room. Kind of like a jail cell, honestly, like this tiny little weird room in the back of this house that wasn't really like a sunroom. It wasn't a porch. It was like this weird little closet or whatever that had like this love seat in it. And she is all over half naked with this guy. So I walk in and I'm like, what the fuck? Now, it could not have been more awkward. So Kay is looking at me like a deer in freaking headlights, and she goes to kind of get up and she goes, oh, hey, Jess, I didn't know you were gonna be here. This is my boyfriend, Kyle. Like, it's so weird. Like, she's trying to tell me, like, I've had a boyfriend this whole time. Please don't ruin my life. Please don't say anything. And I'm just like, oh, your boyfriend, Kyle? Cool. I'm her girlfriend, Jess. It's really fucking nice to meet you, Kyle, or whatever the fuck his name was. And I mean, did I have to be toxic like that? Could I have just walked out? Yes, but like I didn't understand why, like, I don't know about Kyle. Kyle doesn't know about me. I thought I was dating this person and I'm not dating this person. And now, like, I am heartbroken and confused. So I'm like, oh, and he's like, what? He's like looking at her and then looking at me and looking at her and looking at me, and it's so weird and it's so awkward. And she goes to get up and I'm like, no, don't get up. Don't get up. So I just go to walk out and I didn't even think about it in the moment. Like, I'm 18 years old. I didn't think about it in the moment. Like, I just outed her to this person, but she had always said that she was gay and I didn't know that she was bi and I didn't know she had a boyfriend. Like, so all of this stuff is like going on in my head and like I'm confused and I'm hurt and I'm heartbroken. So I get in my car and I go home crying, probably listening to Limp Bizkit, like just whatever, break stuff. And I'm really upset. That's the last time I saw Kay. But the story doesn't end there. I want to say almost 2 years later, I'm selling for a kingpin. He is now in prison for life because of that. And he says to me, oh, I gotta run over to this town. I have to meet this girl named Kay and like give her a re-up. And I'm like, it's a small town. So I'm like, Kay what? Kay what? That sounded stupid. Kay what? And he said her last name. And I said, no, cut her off. Cut her the fuck off. No more. So I kind of explained the situation, but I also was like, she's a really bad addict, cut her off. Like, I thought at the moment that I was like doing her a favor. At the same, like, I'm a drug addict too. Like, how would I feel if I got cut off? Horrible. But I'm like, no, she's a really bad drug addict. She's gonna mess with the money. I was lying to my dealer about being an addict myself, and I was hiding it pretty well when I first started working with him. So I'm like, no, she's a horrible addict. She's gonna mess with the money. You can't trust her. So a week later, he comes back and he tells me I spoke with Kay. She said she doesn't even know you. Bitch, you don't even know. Okay. So I was like even more upset that he went and talked to her and cut her off and said like, yo, I'm working with this person. She said that you were an addict. She said that she is your ex. And she tried to like deny it and say that she didn't even know who I was. So. Now, I don't know where she is now. Hopefully she's doing really well. Hopefully she found recovery. I wish her nothing but the best. But that time in my life was like super, super sketch. And that was the only time that I had ever dated a girl. And it didn't go well. It didn't go well. I was also trying to find myself and figure out who I was. But that taught me a few life lessons, you know? Like, don't ignore red flags. Don't try to make a bouquet out of red flags. Like, pay attention. It also taught me that you can't expect yourself out of everybody, you know what I mean? But you can't expect everyone to be who they are. So you know, it is what it is. I wish her nothing but the best. I hope she's doing well. I hope she found recovery. If you are struggling with addiction, I'm a partner with Groups Recover Together. They are both online and in-person treatment program. They're 420 friendly. They strongly lean on harm reduction, and they're just an amazing team of people. I always leave my landing page with them in the description box of every single video. If you want to see more story times, I will leave a playlist on the card up here. But I'm gonna end today's video here. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe, stay in recovery, whatever that looks like to you, because there's no wrong way to recover. And I will see you guys in my next one.